Okay, here we are. It's July the 6th. We're a full 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks now since the end of Hungry for Truth, which was the hunger strike out in front of John McCain's office. And we're trying to carry on something of a conversation coming out of that event. Perhaps we can reflect back upon it or consider ideas as to where the 9/11 Truth Movement, or at least one way of thinking within the 9/11 Truth Movement, one way of strategizing how we could get more activism generated, especially as it relates to our local leaders. It was just a coincidence that John McCain, being a presidential candidate and being from Arizona, we are in Arizona, so there was something of a connection there in the first Hungry for Truth hunger strike. But the thinking that has come out of Hungry for Truth has been, and this has been largely my response to the hunger strike, having been the one going through it, but many other people followed it and became interested in the fact that this type of activism was taking place. Well, how could we generate either more interest in that, or offshoots of it, or just keeping the ball rolling, keeping the activism, the enthusiasm for activism for 9/11 Truth generated, keeping it generated, and especially as it relates again to our local leaders. My appeal has always been, we need to reach out to our local leaders, ask them where they are, where do they stand in relation to this information on 9/11 Truth. As Richard Gage and Stephen Jones and the numerous people who are speaking out for 9/11 Truth have made it abundantly clear that the evidence is rock solid. The towers came down in something other than jets hitting them and the subsequent fires. We sometimes hear Jesse Ventura say, 2 planes, 3 buildings, what's wrong with this picture? Well, fair enough, that's a fair enough question. But on that line of questioning, well, what do we do about it from here? What do we as citizen activists do? The media is complicitly silent. No, there's a conspiracy, all right. It is on the part of the media and those who are controlling the news to not let this important information get out to the people. So the people have to bring it to the people. And that's precisely what we try to do.
We have to become the fourth estate. Our fourth estate has failed us, and it's up to us.
So what do we do from here? How can we continue to be that fourth estate, Rick? This is where your ideas kind of converge with the hunger strike. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, I think it's great to spin off of your motivation and your enthusiasm, and your hunger strike idea has a lot of potential, I think. So the organization of it and trying to get to just the feel out there to see if there's anywhere this can go, it's pretty exciting. So
the 9/11 Truth Movement is already set up. The infrastructure's there in the 9/11 Truth Movement for 11th of the month actions. In fact, here we are July 6th, 5 days from now, July the 11th. Across the country, there will be, in numerous cities, there will be a variety of activities taking place. If you belong to any one of the meetup groups, 9/11 Truth meetup groups around the country, or the We Are Change meetup groups around the country, you'll quickly find out that there is activism. There are events planned. So I know here in Phoenix, we will be out in front of NBC studios, downtown Phoenix on Central Avenue, calling them on the carpet. Where are you guys? Here we just finished on June the 11th, a 17-day hunger strike in the city of Phoenix. Where was our Phoenix Channel 12? That happens to be NBC. And here, Mr. McCain, he's from our state. This would have had enormous interest, you would think, for a media outlet, a television station, where here one of our state senators running for president is having a hunger strike launched out in front of his office. It went on for 17 days. There was enormous public support for it, write-ups in the newspaper even. One of our state senators spoke up on behalf of the hunger strike, and Channel 12 was nowhere to be found. This is shameful. And they were not alone. I'd like to believe in August the 11th, we'll target one of the other news stations and go pick it out and rally out in front of their station. Where was ABC? Where was CBS? Where was Fox News? Oh, I have to say, Fox did send a crew out, but I never was able to confirm whether or not they broadcast any of it. So my point is on the 11th of July, there's already an action plan here in Phoenix, as will be the case across the country. We don't know what individual states do. Individual cities and states do and plan their own actions. But could there be interest, especially come September the 11th, 08, will be a full 7 years now from the terrorist attacks. I'm hoping to generate interest that can be coordinated with already existing plans for the various cities groups, that perhaps we can have a hunger strike against the machine, against the corporate machine and all of the baubles and the nonsense they want us to buy.
Cartel capitalism.
There you go. This nonsense capitalism of generating false desires and needs within us to buy these products. I think it would be very fair and reasonable to protest to not buy anything on that day, September the 11th. Let's go ahead. We won't fill our tanks that day. We won't purchase our groceries on that day. A small step to be sure, but if it were consolidated and enough people were on board, perhaps we could make an impact. I would like to propose the idea that for a committed few, for those who were followed Hungry for Truth last May and June, if there is one person in each city across the country who could join with me, I would be willing to do it for Phoenix again. Something like a Hungry for Truth hunger strike, where one person in each city carries on the hunger strike to September 12th and 13th, and single out one of your local leaders, single out one of your politicians, park yourself out in front of his or her office in your city, in your state.
And ask them to wake up.
Ask them to become accountable for this material.
So you want to launch this idea on July 11th?
Well, I'm proposing the idea now, as we approach July the 11th. I would like to launch the action, would be coordinated with September the 11th, 08. But yeah, I don't think it's too early to get the appeal out there. Is there interest?
And you can help people who have questions, because you've been through it, so you can prepare people physically for what they need to do.
Correct. I could be a contact point. I guess I would be willing to be a contact for those individuals, and it would not take many. I would like to see a minimum of 24 step up to the plate. 24 people, plus myself, that would be 25 cities across the state, across the country, where we could then say, gee whiz, for every 2 states in the Union, we had 1 state, at least, half the states participated in a hunger strike, in which one person, I could be the team leader, if you will, just to disseminate information and to guide you as to how to go through the mechanics of it. You do have to have a core group of people who are willing to stand with you or to sit with you as you go through this. But I guarantee you, your 9/11 Truth movement in your city will rally around. If you can have, as the principal hunger striker, if you can have 2 or 3 close friends to see to it that you're never alone in your 12 and a half hour vigil. I think if we all got on the same page and we all followed a similar format of our hunger strike, I believe the principal success of the hunger strike was now the half dozen or dozen people who are now part of the 9/11 Truth movement in Phoenix, who up until the hunger strike, they were curious and knowledgeable and they were questioning, but they weren't yet active. So my optimism in a renewed hunger strike, now it would be for the numbers. I would really set a base minimum. If I could not generate 24 other folks to say, okay, Gadsby, I'll do something like you did. Walk me through it. What are the logistics involved? If I couldn't get 24, I would think, well, maybe it's not worth it, because they can easily ignore, as we found, they easily ignored one guy. They could probably ignore a dozen people. If they ignore 25 hunger strikes simultaneously for the same cause going on around the country, boy, have we got big problems.